You called it out. We're
All
gonna get
right.
into the
That's
Dr. C
right.
segment.
Ain't she
Okay.
gorgeous?
Dr. C.
How you
Yes,
doing, Linda?
I'm
How you
doing
doing, young lady?
well. I'm doing wonderful. I'm honored to be here. Very honored to be here.
Okay, well,
Okay.
tell us a little about your field of doctor that you are, the
Okay.
type of doctor that you
I
are,
can do that.
and tell us a little about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm graduated from medical school at the age of 23. Yes, if I'm breathing, I'm bragging.
I like
Good
that.
job.
Yeah, I
I like
actually
it.
admire the young version of myself because
Okay.
God knows I have an MD, but I have a PhD in fun. So I know I have a good time, but I studied hard. And I can remember just practicing, even just to get into med school, practicing organic chemistry, going to the physics instructor on the weekends, do whatever it took to get the pre med requirements out of the way. 2 years and 3 summers out of high school.
What did you do to stay up studying all night? Like, was it like a lot of coffee?
No, back then, I'm blessed with 21% O2 is the only thing I need to get high on. I'm telling you. This is my natural state, 24/7.
Well, when I met
Yes,
you at the at GGO Castillo's independent
yes,
casting thing we did in New York, upstate New
yes,
York, I was like, she got a lot of
I
energy.
do.
She
And
got a
if
lot of
I could
energy.
bottle it and
It-
share it, I really would.
She's all around the place. She's everywhere. I didn't even know you were a doctor. I
Right.
thought she's like one of the girls just for the
My
cast.
aunt, I
She's
have to
all
give
over
a
the
shout
place.
out, shout out to my aunt, um, who was a teacher in Chicago. And she would brag to her students that she has a niece who's a MD, but she still knows how to have fun. And I can remember how honored I was that she used me in that setting. So I always have to give another shout out to my aunt Geraldine Downey also. But getting back to telling you a little bit about myself, I have been a physician now for 36 years. And cancer has impacted my life in such a way that,
You deal with more cases of that, like
well,
real traumatic cases with the
well,
cancer.
no. Let's you say the word trauma. Let me really back it up. When I got my MD degree, the minister in my church actually suggested I go in orthopedics. So I had the honor of being the first woman in orthopedic surgery at Howard back in 1979. Not the
Wow.
first one to,
That's a
not the
big
first
Wow,
one. I'm not the
yes.
first one to finish. Regina Hillsman's the first
But
one to finish.
still.
But I changed fields, changed fiancés, and I did not finish ortho, but I had the background in ortho. Okay.
Wow.
So when I came to New York, I went into emergency medicine. I actually did 9 years working in Kings County in Brooklyn, New York. I feel Brooklyn is like a place that many human beings can walk up to me as know that I'm Dr. Clemens, aka Dr. C, in Brooklyn, New York. 9 years from 1985 to 1994, I worked in the treatment trauma area of Kings County Hospital in Brooklyn, New York.
Wow.
And one doctor got shot and killed there on while I was on duty. I remember
Wow.
hearing the residents running down the hall because and then another off. We used to see people from Rikers Island and some of the people would try to pull the gun out of the men's. It was just
Yeah,
really
it's
something.
crazy.
We
So
all
you
had to
you've seen
run
a
for cover. I've
lot,
seen
a
Right.
lot of trauma just spilled over the streets. Besides the patients you have to treat.
I carried my twins at Kings County. I remember once I was, as you can see, I share my information. So I'm sewing up a patient. And
Just
my,
open,
my
it's
big
not the wrong.
abdomen is laying on the patient as I'm suturing him. So I'm telling the nurse, hey, I'm having a boy and a girl. So finally the patient said underneath the blanket I had over the scalp, as I was suturing the scalp last week, he says, Doctor, either your son or your daughter just kicked me. So the babies were kicking the
I would
patient
like
while
to
we were
ask
straight
this,
up.
like
That's
you
a
just
true
say you
story.
sutured, so you did
That's
you
a
did
true story.
you do surgeries.
Yes, well, no. Now I had a privilege of parking in the parking lot at Kings County, and I slipped, broke my wrist, hurt my back and my shoulder, so I no longer work in Kings County. I would still be there if I hadn't broken my wrist. Now I do primary care, and it's so exciting to do primary care. I love primary care.
When you first
Yes,
cut your first person open,
yes.
did it bother you?
No, as a matter of fact, no.
So
I'm
you- like
blessed.
that,
Okay, I'm blessed.
and so you was kind of like
Yeah,
doing the
I'm blessed.
training that prepped
Yes.
you for that. And do you ever see anybody faint in the room, like as a doctor, like and they go into it and like kind of
I've actually, well, I can tell you the real story of getting a free round trip ticket. I was about to buy a ticket to go to from New York to Kentucky, and the lady wouldn't take my money, my credit card. She ran to the intercom and says, "Is there a doctor?" When she came back, I calmly said, I'm a doctor. So she grabbed me and took me. There was a lady, this was back in the 80s. Lady had collapsed and she was blue and she wasn't moving, she was blue. So I did CPR on her, and then in fact, another person who happened to be a doctor who I knew from an externship at Johns Hopkins came, and we did two-person CPR from the EMS. So I got a letter saying that because of a prompt response, a life was saved. She had MI, and now
Oh, that's a
my
wonderful
Dr. C
feeling.
saves lives.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what it's all
Definitely.
about.
That got to be a
But-
great
big.
feeling.
But now I can honestly say I love primary care. Now, unfortunately, I became the founder of cancer screening centers for a reason that's sad, because my father trusted the system. My life's work is to create a protocol so we can have complete genomic sequencing and other tumor markers performed routinely so we can detect any type of pathology, including cancer. Right now, it used to cost $350,000 to do a complete genomic sequencing back in 2008 by a company called KNOME. Now this price has gone down from, let's say, a year and a half ago was $5,000 with the same company if you're in a clinical trial. And I am on the verge of financing to purchase the genomic sequencing units so that we can perform complete genomic sequencing, because all of us have been exposed to environmental toxins like the 9/11 first responders or anyone around radiation.
Chemtrails.
Right. That's right. Environmental toxins, so many of them. Dietary carcinogens, infectious disease irritants like HPV, strains 16 and
crazy.
18,
All the stuff in
H.
the
pylori, word, and also, and so several,
Word.
several,
I like this doctor.
I love Dr. C.
several infectious disease irritants that can cause the mutations. And you could, some people are born with approximately 10 to 15% of people are born with the mutations. And we know that, for example, there's a Lynch syndrome that you can, Creedy Couric's husband died of colon cancer young. And if I'm sure that they found out that he had Lynch syndrome. Now, Angelina Jolie had the BRCA1 and 2. I don't know whether she had 1 or 2. I just know that she found out she did have the genetic predisposition for ovarian and breast cancer. And of course, she acted on that, which is wise. So once we do complete genomic sequencing on all of us humans who have been exposed to environmental toxins, dietary carcinogens, infectious disease irritants, and the detecting those of us who are born with the mutations that can predispose us to mutations. that
Explain
develop
to
legacy.
explain to
Okay.
the listeners what exactly
Okay.
is genomic frequency.
Yes,
Is it
I
have to
can.
do with radiation? Is the same like a MRI?
Good question. Good question. No. MRI means magnetic resonance imaging, and CT is computerized. You can see CAT, which is computerized axial tomography, or CT, just computerized tomography. But complete genomic sequencing deals with mapping your genes. Okay?
Pay attention.
Yeah.
That's,
there's-
deep, that's like the
Word.
Minority
That's
Report.
crazy.
Pay attention.
So you have 3 billion pairs of 6 billion bits of information, and it's an expensive and tedious process. But now it still takes a whole day. It used to take weeks, but it still takes a whole day to perform one genomic sequencing.
Wow.
Hello. So even though it won't be easy to offer this service, that's why we're going to get the funding to purchase several of these machines.
Okay.
And then we want to clone this franchise throughout the United States and eventually the world so that we can offer complete genomic sequencing. Because even right now, today, I just completed a course in Building 10 of NIH in Bethesda, Maryland. Every Wednesday, every Tuesday after work, I drive all the way to Bethesda, Maryland from New York. And sometimes I stay with my cousin's widow. Oh goodness. Anyhow, so and then I would go to the NIH the following morning, and I attended a course lecture series called "Current Topics in Genomic Analysis." Now, the beautiful thing about the whole shall we say, the cutting edge industry that we're going through right now is
I
being.
love this
This
right
is
here because
really
this is what I
real.
like, what I'm really into. I didn't go
Right.
to medical school, but I do my own study and research.
That's right.
And
He
like
think
far
he a
as
scientist.
when it
Right.
comes to the medical field, I study like the holistic living and all that type of stuff. But along with like say you're a doctor, you can make a big difference
Big
for
difference.
people.
A rising tide carries all ships, and we want to create jobs and save lives. We want to have multiple production companies. Literally, I'm offering them the ability to be a well, normally it was Cancer Screening Centers, which is a 501c3 organization. That's the one I've had since 2006 in honor of my father who trusted the system. And to make a long story short, once this happened to him, who was a chemist, the chief of research of the Environmental Protection Agency, who went to the doctor regularly, would call me. He's in Cincinnati, I'm way up here in New York. He calls me after he goes to the doctor. They're only doing the CBC and SMA6. Meanwhile, on all of my patients, I do right now, even before I can offer the complete genomic sequencing, I do the CEA, which stands for carcinogenic embryonic antigen. I do the CA 19-9 that would have saved Patrick Swayze and Steve Jobs if their doctors were doing that routinely on them. I do the CA 125 for my women, and I brag that if Coretta Scott King had had me for a doctor, I would have done that on her regularly, and she would be one of the 3 women that I can tell right now who had an elevation and all did have ovarian cancer, and they're all still alive today. So if you, let me go on, CA 15-3 and CA 27-29 for the mucinous type cancers, the alpha-fetoprotein tumor marker for liver cancer, and PSA for men, of course. So my point is this, that you have early detection is the key to longevity, but the more you know there's more to know. But the point is, when you go to the doctor, you want to at least know about cancer and cardiac disease. Now, with cardiac disease, there's a there's imaging. There's imaging available. There's lots of new tests that are coming up to determine the presence of early coronary artery disease. Now, I have a patient who had a 40% blockage of his coronary arteries, and they wanted to wait till it was 70%. Well, fortunately, we have a cardiologist that comes to our office, and I went in her office and said, look, this is my patient. We're not waiting to do it. Goes
So
from
you got
40
a
to
little bit of
70.
clout. You can
Word.
go and switch. Yeah, you got
Word.
hold
He
up.
got his stint, and he does. I am
Word.
so proud and pleased
Yes.
of this case. I just cannot tell you.
But-
Then I have
sorry.
another case of a Cheryl Pepsi Riley. Now, I'm not just giving her a shout out because she's a celebrity, but her unfortunately, her brother died of a leiomyosarcoma in his a synovial cell sarcoma, a synovial cell sarcoma that occurred in his, synovium is the area behind your knee. So,
Okay.
you know, that's the popliteal fossa, that's a proper term.
Okay.
When I met him, I was still orthopedic surgery house physician at the time still, and this is before I made the transition to orthopedics. I'm into emergency medicine. And it was a football-sized mass at that time. And unfortunately, there was some metastasis even at the time of diagnosis. But when I went to his funeral, less than 23-year-old human being who left behind 4 children, then I met his sister, Cheryl Pepsi Riley. In a way, that's why Lindell and I are here with you today, because
Wow.
unfortunately,
So y'all hooked up through that.
well, what happened was he and I were talking about the fact that her father just died on the 16th of August, and his funeral was the 22nd of August.
May he rest
So
in
when
peace.
and oh Lord, I went to his funeral. That was the liveliest funeral I ever went to in my life. You could do the electric slide to the music they played at that funeral. I'm serious about that. It was a very exciting funeral.
That's a good
But-
thing.
That's
I'd rather
pretty
celebrate,
impressive.
you
Right,
know.
they celebrated his
life,
life.
you know?
brother.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Well,
So
she's
you have to
act-
know
So
what
he
you're
brought me
talking
to-
about.
She's actually my doctor.
Yeah,
Wow.
She's actually my
he just
doctor.
happened to be in the
Everywhere you
office.
go.
He just happened to be in the office, and we just happened to talk about Cheryl Pepsi Riley's father dying. He knew it already before I had said it, and he remember he just died on the 16th. This was on the day of the funeral, the 22nd. So I knew he died. He's I knew that already. I thought, wow, how did he know the show? You know what I'm saying? So then we asked. Then next thing he thought, I need to call Gigi Ocasio and get her part of the Independent Women
Right
Show.
away.
So
Okay.
and then the same day as I was driving to the funeral after work, funeral didn't start till 7:30 at night. Okay, so it was really all that funeral. It really was. But anyway, they had a quartet. I mean, because he had once toured and with he was a singer. And then Cheryl spoke about the fact that she had sung places that he had performed in his lifetime.
Nice. Oh,
So it was really, really an exciting. So I could call it 2 funerals and a wedding. The one of the children of my patient, who was the not quite 23-year-old, just got married on the 19th of July this year. So it was like the original funeral in '89, the other funeral is the 22nd of August, and then the wedding that was July the 19th. So I made a commitment years ago that I would donate $100,000 each one of his children that were left behind, and hopefully we'll make some money. I'd like to actually get Lindell to play the part of James Riley Jr. because his smile reminds me so much of that wonderful human being. But getting back to the last point I want to make right now, there's 3 people in my life that have had sarcomas. His synovial cell sarcoma.
Now explain it.
Okay,
what exactly
sarcoma is one of the
sarcoma?
most malignant types of cancer. Okay, so you have benign, you have malignant. Now, out of malignant cancers, you have some cancers with worse prognosis, and sarcomas have very poor prognosis. Okay,
So that's like the worst.
that's one of the worst types of cancer you can have, exactly. I'd rather have chronic myelogenous leukemia. If I'm going to have cancer, give me chronic myelogenous leukemia because it's got a treatment, a gene-based targeted therapy that's called Gleevec. And in my book, I mention, my book's called Gene Themed Scene, and I had the privilege and pleasure of meeting Brian Drucker, MD, who's an oncologist, and he's also a researcher, and he had to fight with the pharmaceutical company even after he knew that Gleevec, it was then called and still called imatinib. It's very hard. Imatinib. That's the generic name for Gleevec. So once he already knew that it would work, he had to fight the pharmaceutical company. Literally, shall we say, he had to calmly go to a new set of lawyers. He changed the institution he was working in and then sweet-talked the lawyers into talking to each other so that he could get it done. Then once he had the molecule, knew it worked, then he had to threaten to produce it himself before he could get it through the market. So he came to the market, and he came to Yale to speak, and I had the privilege of speaking with him. But the third person in my life, the second person was Adrienne Williams Spellman, who also had a leiomyosarcoma. She died in her 50s, and I went to her funeral. And then the last person is still alive today. This person is alive. She has a leiomyosarcoma. It was excised. And I asked permission, obviously, to talk about these cases. So this particular person, I got her tumor sequenced, and she has a P53 mutation. Foundation One is the one that did the work. They searched the world for anyone who's doing any type of clinical trials or any kinase inhibitor, gene-based kinase inhibitor. So anyhow, the point
we
I'm trying
gotta
to
talk. I'm gonna
go
cut you
ahead,
right quick.
go
We
ahead,
gotta
go
call.
ahead. Okay.
Thank you for calling into the Monk Show. What's your name and where you calling from?
This is Gigi Ocasio from Independent Women.
Hi,
What's
Gigi.
up,
Hi,
Gigi?
Gigi. All righty.
Hey, y'all.
The
What's
doctor
up,
is
Sam?
dropping.
How
I'm
y'all
like
doing?
all in all. I'm loving it because you know the show is based on their education too, and she's definitely teaching a lot of stuff, like a lot of
Oh
terms I
my
didn't even know.
God,
She's
Dr. C
dropping. It.
is amazing.
Y'all ought to be
Oh,
around till
wow,
y'all
she's
200
an
years
amazing
old
person.
because
With some
she's talking
wonderful,
about
life-saving things, and
yeah.
I just commend her on her book and
Thank
just
you.
all her success. She's
Thank
just
you.
really, she's the epitome of an independent woman.
Word.
What's up? Yeah, she
My
dropping a lot
husband
of
doesn't
signs.
like that, but I agree with you.
Why
But
not?
I gotta go, yeah. So, how you guys doing? I miss you guys. I can't wait to get there in a couple weeks now.
October
we got
24th.
a countdown, 2 weeks to the
Oh, yeah.
day.
Hey, you
That's
know-
the night before my birthday, Gigi. I
Hey,
was
my
born
birthday next week.
really
Next Tuesday
Wow.
on the 14th. So we gonna do it up.
We're gonna do it up.
10/25/54. So the night of the 24th, I understand it's from 10 to 2 at 12 midnight. That'll be my say.
We're gonna,
Okay.
Dr. C,
We gotta
we're gonna
say
stop the
happy
party.
Not only the doctor is educated and she's very articulate in saving people's lives, she's also a party animal too.
Word, I
And,
love
and,
party.
and we
That's
need
right.
that type
I
of.
love
I'm liking it because I like the way you present it, especially as a black woman today.
Right.
You know,
right.
we need that somebody to give us some greater understanding of what's going on in the medical field
yes.
and help and have a track record. And you got your patients right here.
I hear
And the
Listen.
brother look like in good health.
Listen,
You know what?
you could do
I'm
some-
just really happy to have Dr. C as a part of Independent Women. She's our health and wellness consultant, mentor. She's just amazing. She's doing some really life-saving things. I mean, guys, this is serious.
Thank you.
What she's
Gigi.
doing could really save.
Well,
Yeah.
Gigi, how did y'all hook up? How did you hook up with the
Lindell,
doctor?
the
It was
day
all
of
you
the,
hooked
we
it
were
all
just
up?
talking about that. But go
Wow,
ahead.
I met Dr. C through Brooklyn Dell.
Yep. There you go.
He hooked it up, and I mean, he's amazing. He's helped so much with everything that I'm involved in, especially with the reality show Independent Women. He's just came into my life and just really kind of just did his thing. He works magic. I wouldn't know Casual or Dr. C if it weren't for him, and I'm just really grateful that he's a part of everything that we do.
Yes.
And looking forward to a very long working relationship with him,
Yes.
actually.
hey, Gigi, this is Brooklyn Dow.
Hi, babe.
How you doing, baby? I just want to tell you thank you, right? But I have to be real. Like when I met Gigi, we were having conversation and we were like sharing different ideas about music. And my father had passed away, and Miss Ocasio used to call me every day to check on me. Like she was a big part. She was a big part of me getting through that dark situation, and I'm forever grateful, and just I'm just in love with her, man. Like she really helped me get through that situation because she had just recently experienced something similar with a loss, and it just felt good to have somebody say, "Listen, I know it's dark, but there's gonna be light.
Right.
Like just hang on, hang on."
Oh my God, you're gonna make me cry, dude.
That's
Stop.
what-
You're so sensitive.
You better not. You
This
better
is
not.
Thank you.
That's why I like
Stop being
I
sensitive.
literally have
Shows
tears
like
in my
this
eyes
is
right
what-
now. Thank you so much.
shows like this when we do
yeah.
it good like this. This why I would have it like on demand for people to get it later on and try to keep it exclusive. Because we had a lot of shows like this where it just get real heartfelt. And
Yeah, I know, because I'm literally like really feeling all up in my feelings right now. But Boo, I love you to death, and
Yeah, we love you too.
I would do that for
Yes.
I love you, but I would do that for anyone.
Yes.
Because it's hard when you lose a loved one. It's very difficult, and I've lost my manager, who was my best friend, my father, my dad. I've lost so many people to cancer, and so when we did talk, I had already lost so much. I just wanted, anything that I could do to help you, anything, even a phone call, just just to listen. I was willing to do that because I had people there for me when I was going through what I went through. So I love you, and you're so welcome. And
Okay. Good.
you just those are very heartfelt words that you said. And thank you.
Love
Yeah.
you,
that's
Gigi.
the-
We do love you.
I love
Gigi.
you.
Okay.
You're
All right.
amazing.
We look
You're
forward to
awesome.
seeing you on the 24th.
We
I'll
should
bring.
get paid. Let's try
Right.
shit. We need to party on October 24th.
Yo, we're gonna have a good time on the
But look,
24th.
Gigi, I'm listening to you talk, and it's crazy how I just realized, like, you really have to.
And I'm
pay
over here wiping tears from my eyes, Aisha.
You need to cut it out. Okay, no, let me stop. Hey, go ahead, do you, boo. Sometimes we gotta let it out. I'm gonna hold mine
Oh,
too, though.
yeah.
I'm gonna be a G for right now. I'm gonna be a G. But no, you really have to realize how important support is. And I think a lot of times, just going through life and being busy and having, a lot of things on your plate, when hard trials hit you and all that, you actually forget how important support is. Like, everybody needs support, even though we act like we the toughest person that could take this, deep down inside, that person that's putting on that tough front knows that at the end of the day need a hug. You know what I'm saying? Or that support system and somebody to tell them everything is going to be all right.
Life is so fragile and so short. I think that people need to concentrate and focus on really trying to enjoy and appreciate people when they're here.
Yes.
And that's another thing. I mean, life is so short. Just enjoy your freaking life, dude. I mean,
Yes.
I can't even express that enough. It's so
Yeah,
short.
that's so
We're not
true.
guaranteed a second.
At all.
And I think we should really, really, really try to live it to the fullest extent that we can.
Amen.
And that's what inspires me a lot about all the work that I do, the writing and whatever I do.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah.
Gigi, I wanted to tell you that Dr. C's book is coming along great.
Yes.
Lawrence
Okay.
D. Brown, 2 for 5.
Me and Dr.
Every
C gonna
day.
fight over that book.
Well, I wanted to get into that because you
Yes.
mentioned the book briefly,
Yes,
and I
yes.
wanted you to get into that a
It's
little
called
bit.
Gene Theme Scene, and
Wow.
it's an invitation really for all should we say multiple regional centers to take part in the complete genomic sequencing process and tell the story of the people who undergo the process. I want to make sure veterans are involved because a lot of times veterans do not get the latest state-of-the-art treatments or even testing until 40 years behind everyone else.
You're like the
So
Black Sarah
what
Connor. It's
I'm
like a
trying to
scene out of
tell you-
Terminator.
Word, yeah, for real. Like this is
Yes,
so
she
cool.
is. Yes, she is.
Like
So-
I
so
am really
this-
amazed.
this
Like
will
I am.
create
Dr.
jobs
C,
and save lives.
reality
Yes.
television show
Word.
coming soon.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
definitely right, right,
yeah,
something.
you,
Well,
yeah.
Well, even Gigi was saying that, she can help make sure I get to tell the stories of people with cancer. And then we want everyone to be able to get the stories ready. And then when we can do the sequencing, remember now it's only one sequencing per day. So it'll be a process.
Okay.
And we have to do this before it's urgent. Now, when you know you have cancer, if you've already had a biopsy and you have a pathology report that shows you do have cancer like the patient with the leiomyosarcoma, then what's done is, the good news is that they keep blocks of tissue for 10 to 20 years. So then I have my patients bring their pathology report. Then I've been using Dr. Clement at the Newman Lacka Institute for Personal Cancer Care in Boston, which is a part of Tufts in Boston. And they actually, the first couple of times I had to do the work, but now they help get the HIPAA forms are signed, of course, and then the person's specimen, their blocks of tissue are sent to Foundation One, and they are specifically looking for 300 of the genomic sequence variant signatures for cancer. And this particular person had a P53 mutation. I called Harvard. Harvard is the only place in the world that has Kevitrin clinical trial going on that addresses that exact P53 mutation.
For real?
So
Just
I
that one
did.
place?
So yes, that's the only place for that particular one.
Wow.
Remember, Gleevec is for chronic myelogenous leukemia and other c-KIT positive tumors. Some of them are gastrointestinal stromal tumors. So there are, there's about at least 2 or 3 versions of that type, and there's quite a few I've listed in the book that are gene-based kinase inhibitors. But for the P53 mutation, this just happens to be the only place that they have. Now, for the record, we need researchers. That's part of what I plan to offer in my regional centers is training for gene-based researchers. So I'm trying to encourage young people. Whenever patients bring in young people, I say, we need you to go into gene-based research. So we want to train people to be able to be researchers, because right now I have a loved one that has a SPOP mutation. It's known to be positive in African American human beings who happen to have prostate cancer. And I'm annoyed when, for the first time, out of all the people I've sent their specimen to Foundation One to be sequenced, this particular one, 0 clinical trials, 0 medication. So this is such new technology that the research has not been developed, and there aren't enough gene-based targeted therapies on the market.
Right.
My patient with the leiomyosarcoma has not lost any of her hair. She
That's
looks
crazy.
Great.
But
I've seen her
that's
before.
one question I
So
always wanted to.
She goes to Harvard once a month and gets a Kevitrin.
Wow, that's one question I always wanted to ask the doctor. And since you're sitting here and we're talking about cancer, like, what's your true, brutally honest opinion about chemotherapy?
Please.
Exactly. Like, can we get the
All right.
real? We don't want
when
the.
you read my book, you know what you're gonna.
What's the name of the book?
Gene Theme Scene.
That's what I'm talking
but
about.
Listen, it's a digest of a 400-plus page book written by Siddhartha Mukherjee called Emperor of All Maladies, The Biography of Cancer. So I read and digested this book. I started this book in 2010, the end of 20. I wrote the same time in 2010. And first I read this 400-plus page book. by Siddhartha Mukherjee, published originally by Simon & Schuster. And I took notes on all the important facts of the past. Now, they used to say that, this is written in the book because this was in the original version, that the biologic warfare, they would say that drugs are a toxin but toxins are drugs in disguise. So they were aware that there were some types of cancers that were treated with chemotherapy better than others. But at this point in time, in this 2014, I can honestly tell you that I personally would seek out a researcher. If I had a mutation that had not been sequenced, I would go for the gene-based targeted therapy. Because although it was the best that could be done at the time, now we have the ability to have the genomic information determined so that we can ask a researcher, if it's not already been done,
Right.
to come up with a gene-based targeted therapy. So but in the absence of having that, there are some, I wouldn't want to try to step on an oncologist's toes, even
Yeah, we
though
don't wanna do that.
oncologists are the ones that are not, shall we say, they're not overly enthusiastic about all these early detections. I think it's easier for them to say, oh, well, it's already everywhere. No, we're trying to find out early.
Right.
okay?
I asked you that because I have I have a sister who actually had cancer in her bone marrow, and she caught it at the age of 23, and she actually caught it in the last stages, and she went through chemo, and things like that. But from watching what the chemo did to her, and watching the difference once she left the chemo alone, and she started more natural, diets and certain, natural herbs and
Do you
stuff.
know the pathology diagnosis was it osteosarcoma or was it multiple,
I really don't remember because it was
is
some.
she still alive?
She's still alive. She actually, beat the
There you go.
cancer,
Right,
and
that's good.
it didn't come back. It's been like 3-4 years,
Good.
and it still haven't came back. And it also was a question of some doctors were saying once you, beat cancer and it's clean and it's out your system and it don't come back for after 5 years. After 5 years, it's
still
almost a
need-
guarantee that it won't come back.
You still need to be, that is something that they should abolish, the ability to let those words come out of their mouth. Unfortunately, you can have mutations, even with what I'm talking about. Once let's say even with chronic myeloid leukemia, the cancer can mutate. So you can develop another cancer. Sometimes when you're treating cancer and you have to use various forms, you develop a mutation secondary to what you've
you
already
already
done.
had.
Exactly. So
Okay.
no, you have to be vigilant.
Okay.
No one should go more than a year without having some genomic sequencing or some type of, depending on whether they've already had cancer or if you just have a genetic predisposition, you should never go more than a year. And if you know you have cancer, every 3 months. So you really have to be vigilant. So people should never say, oh, you're in remission. Oh, it's gone. Oh, he did a. No. Say, we will continue to be vigilant. That's a wise thing to say.
Okay.
Well, that's good. That's good information. Now, we're trying to get it around the table. Before we get into my man John Solomon right here,
right, Big John
I want you to
Solomon.
explain to the people what are some of the preventive measures to avoid cancer in the first place.
Well, remember, unless you can walk around in a bubble, darling, and you're not breathing the air, you're not around the radiation, you're not around the cell phone tower.
Yeah, real.
Remember what I told you?
Very real.
50% of men and 1/3 of women develop cancer in a lifetime. And the facts are that environmental toxins, dietary carcinogens, infectious disease irritants, and some people have the mutation from the day they're born. So, when you talk about, it's wise to have 20 servings of vegetables a day. Now, the American Cancer Society did a 20-year prospective study. They found that people who eat red meat have a higher incidence of colon cancer. So avoiding red meat is something you can do to decrease your possibility of getting colon cancer. But if you have the Lynch syndrome and you have a genetic predisposition, then you better still have a real
Wow,
good
I didn't know
geneticist,
that.
a
I
real
need to
good
leave the beef
word,
alone, huh?
word.
I love
Because it
beef.
can
I
get
can't.
jacked up
No, I'm telling
I
you,
love
they did a 20-year prospective study, and if you would read that, you would never eat another piece of red meat ever.
Really?
Word,
Wow.
Boss
word,
ready, you got the
word.
boss
I'm
ready
just
to ask
saying.
you a
Yeah.
question now.
Let's
The
talk-
Hey,
boss
Gigi,
is in the
you-
house.
Let me ask one
Go ahead,
question.
go ahead.
Because I'm vegetarian.
Yes, amen.
Yes, I'm
That's
pretty much
wise.
vegan. 'Cause
Very
I
wise.
just eat cheese.
Very well.
That's it.
If you're slender, you're gonna go ahead.
Yeah.
But,
But what do you
yeah.
think about people if we take silver? Taking
Ooh.
silver and the ugly fruit. Supposed to be and dark fruit, like dark green fruits and vegetables. Because I went to the doctor and I had a blood test and everything done. He was a little disappointed in you because I was too healthy.
Ah. Well, here's what I have to say.
Yeah,
Doctors
yeah.
disagree with the other doctors and themselves about many things. You can always find literature to support. That's why when patients say, should I take this, should I take that? Take a multiple vitamin. Don't overdo anything. A, D, E, and K are fat-soluble vitamins. So therefore, you don't eliminate them like you do all the others. So I don't have any particular expertise on the subject of silver, but I can just say I would not overdose or allow myself to be persuaded by any one doctor, because they may end up changing their mind about the same subject.
Yeah,
So I
'cause,
don't really, no, I don't.
Because
really.
I started doing natural stuff. I became a vegetarian back in '94. I'm sorry. I became a vegetarian around 1994. And I used to take like pills and stuff like that, but it didn't do me any good. So I thought about, I kept reading books about taking vitamins to help control allergies.
What type of doctor is this that you went to see?
I wish
Is
I-
it an ND, a naturopath? No, see,
Oh.
I'm an
Oh,
MD.
no.
Medical doctor. Everybody knows
know.
what MD is.
I know, I never
I'm
seen
talking
an
about
ND.
ND.
No, I
That's,
didn't see
yes,
it.
a naturopath.
Yeah, I didn't see one
You
yet.
weren't. Okay, so
Yeah, it was
what
the
type
MD.
of, it was an MD, okay.
That told me that he was disappointed.
Is it something that he checked, because I may not have understood your question
Oh,
properly.
sure.
Go ahead.
Basically, okay, I went to get a checkup, and everything turned out fine. Nothing. I had everything, tested out. Only thing he said he was worried about was my
You sure you weren't talking about zinc?
no, not zinc.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh
All
no,
right.
actually I take zinc.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah,
just
I take
asking.
zinc.
Okay, go
I know, I
ahead.
take zinc.
Yeah, okay.
He said that something about like if you don't eat meat, your potassium or
Oh, I
whatever,
see, I see. So, okay,
protein.
so he was just trying to make sure that you had at least 4 ounces of protein. You need your essential amino acids.
Yeah.
So he wanted to make sure that you got, have at least 4
B12.
ounces.
That's
Yes, okay. So, yes, a multiple vitamin is wise, obviously, whether you're a vegan or not a vegan.
Right.
And you do have to have this recommended is 20 servings of vegetables and 4 ounces of protein, preferably fish that swim upstream with less mercury, and breast of turkey, breast of chicken without the skin, and avoid the egg yellow, where the yolk has 1,400 milligrams of cholesterol per egg yolk. So, so that's what is advisable.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
You know what's cool about this? In the hip hop industry, we have a lot of unhealthy habits that are promoted.